going on, guys? So today we're going to be looking at 3 true scary wedding horror stories. And this video is by Mr. Nightmare. Make sure you guys go subscribe to him. I will definitely link his channel down in the description. And let's get to story number 1.
My wife and I got married in the Church of the Little Flower in Coral Gables, Florida in 2017. We invited all of our close friends and family, including the family that neither of us really liked, because that's just what you're supposed to do. My wife Allie has this estranged aunt Chelsea that no one in her family is really close with. She used to have serious drug problems. It spiraled her down a path that just led to a rift between her and the rest of the family. Well, Aunt Chelsea was invited to the wedding, and when she showed up, she surprisingly came with a date. But unsurprisingly, he didn't look like the kind of guy you want to bring home to mom and dad. Right from the first time I laid eyes on him, I knew he was different, not in a pleasant, quirky way. After the wedding ceremony, of course, came picture time. The 6 bridesmaids, 6 groomsmen, and my wife and I all went to this nice backyard section of the church campus to have pictures taken by the hired photographer. Some close family from both sides came along as well to watch while most others went to the party hall. Aunt Chelsea and her date came to watch us take pictures as well. This was when I first got his name, Rob. The two of them were making everyone uncomfortable, like everyone in the bridal party would joke around and we'd genuinely laugh. Then either Chelsea or Rob would yell out these weird, inappropriate things. They just kept doing it to the point where they created awkward silences, and all of us were just internally cringing, dreading what weird things they'd say next. It got very awkward very quickly, let's just say that, to the point I wanted them to leave altogether. Anyway, we eventually finished with pictures. Then we migrated to Comber Hall, the party hall connected to the church, where food and drinks were being served. Being the groom, all the attention is on you at all times. You barely have a chance to sit down and gather your thoughts or even eat. Every second I had someone else coming up to congratulate me, and eventually that person was Rob. He shook my hand again, his breath terrible, and his arms scarred up. He wasn't wearing a long-sleeved shirt, rather a stained gray polo. He seemed like a filthy person all around. He started talking to me with this loud, almost demeaning tone. I did my best to just be polite, and eventually he walked back to Chelsea. This was the last time I saw him that day. Eventually I saw Chelsea sitting by herself at the table, so I asked Allie where that Rob guy went. She had no idea either. After a while of Chelsea sitting by herself, Allie went up to her to ask her where her date was. Chelsea didn't know. She hadn't seen him in an hour. Chelsea also explained that they met in rehab, and that she had only gone out with him 4 times. Allie grew concerned with this man being here after hearing this. We asked our parents and some close family to look around for the man, to confirm if he was still there or not. There was some concerning news when one of my relatives said that some of the gifts in the room where the gifts were being stored were missing. We immediately attributed this to Rob, and had an employee ask over the microphone for everybody to keep an eye out for Rob. Chelsea wanted to call his cell, but she couldn't find her phone. This put a slight damper on things, but we didn't let it ruin our wedding day. Our parents called the police and dealt with them on the side, with the help of Chelsea giving information about Rob. After the wedding reception, a few close friends came back to our hotel.
Alright, guys, that was story number 1, and that was actually really creepy. And now, let's get to number 2.
I had a pretty low-key beach wedding, mostly just family and friends. My wife, who I'll just call Trisha, invited more people than me for sure. She even invited her ex-boyfriend Kyle. I didn't know exactly how I felt about that at the time, but I acted accepting and fine with it because I knew they remained close friends. There were about 75 people at the wedding ceremony, including Kyle. I didn't pay it much mind the day of the wedding because it was such a big day and my mind was obviously racing. Kyle was friendly to me, but throughout the wedding reception, I noticed Kyle would constantly be talking to Trisha, and when he wasn't talking to her, he'd be looking in her general direction. I mean, Trisha and I were married now. It's not like he had any shot at all. So at the time, I started to think maybe I was just being a little too paranoid, even if it was slightly annoying. Kyle came alone to the wedding though, which I thought was just a tad weird that he didn't bring a date. My wife and I stayed in a fancy waterfront hotel that night, and the next day we went back home. A couple people who didn't make the wedding came by the house to congratulate us and drop off gifts. Surprisingly, Kyle stopped by as well. Trisha and I had recently moved into a new house together, and Kyle claimed to have stopped by to check out our new place and to drop off his gift that he didn't get to give us yesterday. He handed us, well, Trisha specifically, an envelope and a little foot-long teddy bear holding a heart. On the heart was our initials, which I actually found to be a nice, thoughtful gift. We gave Kyle a tour of the house and he stayed for a beer, but after that he said he'd better get going and congratulated us once more before leaving. Inside the envelope was a card containing $100. As nice as I thought the gifts were, I still believed he had some serious feelings for Trisha, and I asked her to ease back on the friendship a bit. She couldn't see what I saw though, apparently. She swore up and down that they were just very close friends and that there were no feelings left on either side. Trisha put the teddy bear next to some of the other gifts on our dressers. While my wife and I were in bed together having a romantic moment, I stopped her when I heard this weird noise. I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but it sounded like a small electrical component. I looked around for my phone and found it was on my nightstand. I chalked it up to being a vibration from a text notification. Like half an hour later, laying in bed with the light off, I once again brought up Kyle, asking if he'd texted her since the day before. She said he has, and I got a little annoyed. I repeated myself, saying I don't want her talking to him anymore. She got a little mad at me for accusing her of being interested in him at all. I assured her he was still interested in her. Why else would he stick around in his ex's life like this? She got back at me with her assurance that she doesn't view him romantically at all, that she's no longer attracted to him, and that she broke up with him for a reason. She followed this with she will ease back on her contact with him. I apologized for coming at her like that, and we went to sleep. The next day, when I got home from work, Trisha exclaimed that Kyle randomly blocked her on Instagram, and when she texted him asking what's wrong, he replied, "What do you care? I heard the things you said." When she tried texting back asking what he was talking about, she saw that he blocked her number now too. I wondered if maybe she butt-dialed him on her phone while we had that conversation the previous night. But when she checked her call history, his name wasn't there. I wasn't angry though. Him blocking her meant I was right. He did still have feelings, and now he'd be gone. That night while in bed, we talked about it some more. Then I heard the little electronic vibrating sound again. I looked at the teddy bear on the dresser. Then I got up and went to pick it up, and my heart dropped. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and started to tear the bear open. Trisha realized it immediately too. The inside of the bear's head was a square electrical component wired to what was very obviously a camera behind the left eye and a microphone box wired to the left ear. This was connected to some kind of Bluetooth device that would probably...
Alright guys, number 2 was actually really terrifying, especially at the end with that teddy bear, so I guess never invite your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend to your wedding, but let's get to number 3, the last one.
I live in a safe town, the kind of town that you can leave your car doors unlocked. Hell, you can usually get away with leaving the doors to your house unlocked. The crime rate is very low, and I live on a dead-end block. I had just gotten home from work around 8 p.m. after a 12-hour shift and was preparing a late dinner when the phone rang. The second I picked up, I heard the sound of the person on the other end hanging up. I don't know if this has any correlation with what's to come, but if it does, that's even more horrifying. On nights where I get home late, especially after 12-hour shifts, usually I'll just cook, eat, clean up, take a shower, then lay in bed watching TV for an hour before going to sleep. This was one of those nights. I was physically and mentally exhausted, which led me to making what I learned that night was a serious mistake. I was laying in bed watching The Sopranos for my 3rd run. Sometimes I'll drift off to sleep with the TV still on when I'm just completely beat, and that's exactly what happened this night. I woke up to the TV still playing The Sopranos. I had slept through 2 episodes. I felt around the bed for the remote and turned it off. In the now freshly silent room, I was able to hear little creaks in the wood under the carpet. I felt adrenaline kick in as I looked across the dark room, and I felt I could vaguely see the shape of a very wide figure. As I aimed the remote at the TV to turn it back on to light up the room, before the TV was even on, I started choking on my own spit as I tried to say, "Please leave." The TV came back on, and the room lit up a tint of blue, revealing her. This woman in a wedding dress, looking at me, with the veil covering her face. I tried to scream at first, but nothing came out of my mouth because I was just in pure shock. I sat up, pressed against the headboard of my bed, frozen. That's the best way I can describe what I was doing in that moment. The woman in the dress, whose face I could barely see, walked over to the bed, whispering, "Where is my groom?" over and over, but each time she said it, she got louder. Her whisper quickly turned to a yell, and she grabbed the edge of my mattress and started shaking it. I screamed back at her to leave me alone. Then I got off the bed, pushed her, and ran to the bathroom across the hall and locked the door. She followed me, trying to open the door, banging on it and repeating the words, "Where's my groom?" I yelled at her I'm calling the cops, and luckily I had my cell phone on me. The woman was crying now on the other side of the door, still knocking and banging. The last thing I heard her say was, "I have to get to my wedding." I heard her stomp down my stairs, screaming and crying. Then I heard the front door slam shut. I was on the phone with 911, and I explained what just happened. I checked the living room, and she was gone. I stepped outside to see if I could see which way she ran, but she was out of sight. A police officer showed up shortly, and I described her as some larger woman in a white wedding dress and veil. How she was screaming, "Where's my groom?" and "I have to get to my wedding." I couldn't help with the direction she ran to. It was either down the only direction the street goes, or the woods to the right. Because of my exhaustion after my 12-hour shift, I had forgotten to simply lock my door, something I honestly never even thought was a problem in my neighborhood. But this just goes to show that even the best of neighborhoods, you're not always safe from crazy people out there.
Sorry about that, but that is gonna wrap up today's video. Out of all of them, I think number 3 is the scariest. I hope that does not give me nightmares tonight, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.